before you think that that Tulsi is a hero, let me show you another little segment where she talks about the border crisis. Now, we've discussed how Title 42 inflates the number of crossings at the border to make it look like more people are coming in the same way that the Republicans like to look at the amount of fentanyl that is stopped at the border and assume that it's a very small sliver and assume this mystical, mysterious fantasy number of volumes of fucking fentanyl that must be getting in if they're catching this amount, because they're not even really trying, because the CBP, who are American heroes, have basically just fucked off from their job and don't care anymore because Joe Biden won the presidency and they love Trump so much they're just going to let fentanyl flow into the country. The argument is fucking stupid. But let's see what she says before she gains any hero status from anybody who thinks she was doing the Democrats a favor by going after Santos when she's really just taking out the trash.
Clearly isn't worried at all about the crisis.
Clearly isn't worried at all. That's why they requested $3 billion more for DHS and the Customs and Border Patrol than last year, which was up from the year before. Clearly doesn't care.
At the southern border. I don't think they're paying attention to it.
Nah, they didn't even, what border? Do we have a southern border? I thought it was just wide open.
At all. This is proof by the fact that Joe Biden is now heading to St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands for some sun, rest, and relaxation.
Yes, it's a terrible thing, especially around the holidays. The president should, and if he golfs, I think it should be considered a war crime.
Meanwhile, gangs and human traffickers not only have free run of the border.
No, they don't. If you're in a gang or you're a human trafficker, I just wouldn't recommend just brushing across. You will encounter some challenges, unless I guess the Texas members of the Customs and Border Patrol just like human trafficking. Is her assumption that the people who work in Border Patrol are just in league with the cartels? Because it's one thing to think that Biden doesn't give a shit, but there's still workers down there. There's still a lot of Customs and Border Patrol people down there. So those folks have just given up on their job? Is that what Tulsi is telling everybody? That they just said, fuck it. Biden's in, let's let them come in and tear apart the country.
They basically control it as they're profiting heavily, fueling their criminal enterprise.
Oh, you mean because of the access roads created by the Trump wall that extend the area where human trafficking can actually happen across the border, raising the cost of the border at the same. Okay, because of that.
But they're not only taking over the Texas border. Arizona is also in this crisis and crosshairs.
Crisis and crosshairs.
This month alone, customs officials at a single port of entry in the state of Arizona, in Nogales, seized roughly 2 million fentanyl pills.
Good work, guys. Congratulations. They seized them, did they? Are you sure it doesn't say sold them? Because that would be bad. Seizing them, good. Selling them, bad.
Last month, that very same port of entry seized more than 3 million fentanyl pills. So they're getting pretty good at stopping the stuff. Maybe better than they were during the Trump years. So we had the highest number of fentanyl deaths in a single fiscal year happened starting in April of Trump's last year in office. So obviously fentanyl was getting across the border at some point. It was coming from somewhere. And now they're stopping it regularly. And that's a bad thing. It's one of the weirdest arguments. And of course, that's just what CBP was able to detect.
Sure. I mean, the assumption is, of course, that's
full extent of the drug trafficking and human trafficking that's occurring and the consequences on our country, especially through.
We're at the mercy of a narco state. This is part of the gin up that Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, including Trump, have been saying that we need to bomb the cartels in Mexico, just basically open warfare against Mexico. Because it's basically, this is the argument, if it's a narco state, they control the Mexican government. So the Mexican government is in on it. So if you bomb the cartels, you got to bomb the government itself. I mean, all of Mexico is basically, her argument is they're all in league together.
Our border in Arizona, this is almost impossible to measure. Our government
both Democrats and
But I mean, I know it's impossible to measure, borderline impossible to measure, no pun intended. But I think you should just use Trumponomics and just exaggerate it. However much is caught, let's just assume 20 times more gets through. You're not finding it in the other states at that volume, but I'd safe to assume.
Republicans have clearly failed to secure our borders, either because they just don't care about the American people, our security, or our country.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Or they're totally incompetent. Mexico, certainly not doing anything to secure its own borders and keep people from entering our country. They're essentially a narco state that is controlled by and facilitating these cartels, who are the ones who are winning in all of this.
Well, not if the fentanyl kills their customers. I mean, one of the things the cartels are kind of worrying about right now is the meth producers and the weed growers and the coke producers are fighting with the fentanyl producers because the fentanyl and the heroin mixed with fentanyl is killing their customer base. I mean, there's a difference between an addict and a dead addict. And the problem with fentanyl is it kills a lot of people. The cartels themselves a couple of them have been at war with triad members about this shit.
And so the result is that, like Texas, Arizona is also experiencing an unprecedented wave of illegal migration. But keep in mind, the impact doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop.
By the way, the wave of illegal migration is not the volume of people actually crossing. It's the number of encounters, which is, again, she won't bring that up.
At our border states, because they're just way stations for this surge of illegal migration that, frankly, is impacting every state across the country.
You mean with all those jobs that aren't filled? All right.
Now, the Daily Caller's Jorge Ventura was at the Yuma border in the middle of the night just before Christmas. Here's some disturbing footage of what he saw.
Terrifying. Let's see it.
We are approaching 4 in the morning here in Yuma, Arizona. This is the current scene. We're seeing a massive line here of migrants from all over the world, from Russia, Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Cuba. This is one of the more sophisticated human smuggling operations. And this once again shows, we're taking here this massive line here. This is once again shows the amount of control the Mexican drug cartels have on this border. Secretary Mayorkas continues to say that the border is closed, and this massive line shows different.
So, he's on the Mexican side of the border. Notice that it says Yuma, Arizona, but he's in Mexico. There's a line. Is the line moving? Honest to God, if the border was open, why would there be a fucking line?
Ali Bradley of News Nation reported today that she saw more than 400 migrants cross into Yuma this morning alone. Now, many of them, she said, are from Moldova, Russia, and Cuba. And according to Bradley, quote, one Moldovan man told us he took an Uber from Tijuana to this drop-off point. And he says he was told the border is open.
Yeah. Why was he told that? Who told him that? There you go. This Fox News. Human smugglers get the message. The border is open. Who the fuck is telling them the border is open? Title 42 still exists. There's still a wall. Where the fuck are they hearing it? You think a lot of Russians and people from Moldova watch MSNBC and hear that the border is wide open? Come on over. No. Where do they hear it from? What network of all the networks is constantly saying the border is wide open?
Now, as Jorge Ventura found, human smugglers have received that message loud and clear. Ventura confirmed that many young people...
So they work for the Republican Party, or are you getting kickbacks, or how does it work?
People are being brought to the border by human smugglers.
Dear God, look at that woman. She's terrifying.
So there we actually have the human smuggler. He's trying to flash this light to my camera.
He's a human smuggler. He's smuggling humans. These people are walking by themselves, and he's more like a human trafficker, meaning that he's guiding traffic. And he's a human trafficker the way the guys with the red flashlights are airplane traffickers.
And block us from filming him. He was actually calling me out yesterday for filming him here yesterday, and he's bringing another big group here. That's why he's using that stroke to block me from getting his face this time, as he's actually taking money payments right now.
Official.
Right. By the way, he's not in Yuma, Arizona. He's on the Mexican side of the border.
Officials in Arizona say they're not getting any help from the federal government in
Which is a lie.
deterring this illegal migration and
In deterring this illegal migration. So Title 42 isn't helping. Because what more do you want in terms of if Title 42 is the answer to it and you keeping it is very important, why isn't it working? Why is Title 42 making it worse? Why are many of these people, at least a third, are on their fifth try crossing into the United States before they're caught and returned?
human trafficking.
Also, why is the guy from the Daily Caller not calling the police or the Customs and Border Patrol and going, hey, there's a big line of people coming. We're right at this one line.
In fact, the Biden administration has successfully pressured Arizona to stop using shipping containers that they put up as makeshift barriers to kill.
Because you can cut through them with a fucking hacksaw and hide in them.
Keep illegal migrants out.
They're not fucking full of cement, dipshit. They're easy. Oh, God.
Now, Governor-elect Katie Hobbs has also vowed to stop using these containers as blockades. And just
Because they don't work.
a moment, we're going to speak to Mark Daniels, the sheriff of Cochise County, about the fight over those very shipping containers. But first, we're going to go to the Daily Caller's Jorge Ventura, who shot the footage from Arizona that we just showed you. Jorge, you are exposing the lie that the Biden administration is telling us about how the borders are secure and closed. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, with that footage of you in Mexico, but it says Yuma, Arizona. Are you technically in the United States where you're filming that? Or are you just kind of spitballing?
Happening on the ground right now.
Yeah, and Yuma, Arizona is one of the more sophisticated human operations that I've reported. I've been reporting in South Texas, California, and Arizona, but...
Well, yeah, what do they have, a turnstile? The fuck is with the line? Again, if the border is wide open, you don't think you can see, the Border Patrol can't see your lights?
In Yuma...
What? And Steve Ducey is still fucking governor of Arizona. Katie Hobbs is not in charge, of the state yet.
What makes it particularly interesting is around 2 in the morning on the Mexican side, you'll see a mass...
On the where, sorry?
But in Yuma, what makes it particularly interesting is around 2 in the morning on the Mexican side, you'll see a massive wave of vehicle traffic. After the migrants are dropped off, you'll see 4 or 5 human smugglers guide these migrants. We're talking about hundreds of migrants from all over the world. So I got to meet migrants from Russia, Afghanistan, Bolivia, Peru, Brazil, Cuba. They're being smuggled.
The Cubans are very strange because I suppose they don't want to take the boat trip, so they go to South America and then try to come up.
In the middle of the night, hundreds, overwhelming Border Patrol officials. And luckily, we were able to track down one of those human smuggling routes, get these smugglers on camera. What makes this actually more interesting, Tulsi, is how brazen these smugglers are, walking on American soil and taking payments as they continue to smuggle hundreds. And after we caught the smuggler on camera, he couldn't care less. He just returned to the Mexican side and continued bringing groups, and it just overwhelms Border Patrol officials on the Yuma side. There was actually one point where it was around 6 in the morning.
Look at that! Look at this horrifying picture of this man with a toddler, probably going to sell it. Like he's just taking it straight to an adrenochrome facility in Tempe.
I was staring at a group of 300 migrants with no Border Patrol agents to apprehend them or process them because they have to attend to other areas. And it's just been a complete mess and disaster. And right now, the Mexican cartels have full control of the U.S. border. I know Secretary Mayorkas like to say the border is secure. It is absolutely not. It's a different story on the ground.
Jorge, thanks so much for showing people exactly what's really happening at the border. Because if you watch the mainstream media, you listen to the Biden administration.
Yeah, I just want to, so we saw the line on the Mexican side, and we saw people crossing a little piece of ground. Where's the footage of them just kind of running into the United States? Where is that footage? There seems to be a lot of this footage.
but you're not showing any of the part where they would encounter CBP, which you allege aren't there. Is there something again they have against filming the direction of where these people are going, or do they just not get very far and it doesn't sell the narrative?
Mayorkas.
I'm sorry, but that piece of missing footage is it stands out to me.
They are blatantly lying to us, and what you've just shown us again is who is actually in control at the border.
No, you haven't. There's a dude with a flashlight being paid to show people a way across the border. The guy, the idea that he is a cartel member, or that he is beholden to cartels, or that he's not just some dude who like knows the border well and acts as a guide, or that he's a quote unquote human trafficker because he is. And by the way, there's a huge difference between assisting people getting across the border and human fucking trafficking. Like using that phrase willy-nilly. Most of us think of human trafficking as a shitty modern term for slavery. I have this person and I'm trafficking in people. I will sell you this person for whatever purpose you want. There's a huge difference between that and give me $50 and I'll show you where the exit is. Yeah, how do we know that was the border? It's a good point, Salty Sylvester. You don't have to. It can all just be sales. Also, how many of those people have tried multiple times? How many of them get caught once they're in a city and get sent back and do it again and do it again? But the idea that that guy who's getting paid $50 to show him a way across the border is a quote-unquote human trafficker is fucked. That's ridiculous. It's embarrassing to even use those phrases. And as much as Tulsi Gabbard was crawling up George Santos's ass about what he was saying, what's the difference?
It's those who are profiting the most, these cartels and human traffickers. Thank you.
Again, these cartels and human traffickers, are they not one and the same? I thought the whole title of the human smugglers, get the message, the border is open. Okay. By the way, smuggling and trafficking are two different things. The video, whoever posted the video, used the word smuggler, which is definitely closer to reality of what those guys do. They smuggle people across the border. They don't traffic in humans. They smuggle them. This asshole is saying that there is no material distinction between both of those, and human trafficking is like they're selling slaves and mostly children across the border. To whom? Into red states. Who's buying these people if it's human trafficking? The fuck are you talking about?
Thank you so much.
Gibberish. Okay, again, footage on the Mexican side of the border, footage of a guy saying, give me $50 and I'll show you the route. Okay, thanks for showing us the route. Line of people paying this fucker. Women and children, parents trying to make it in the dark of night. That's been happening for fucking ever. Has there ever been a time when you couldn't get similar footage of people at one point or another lining up, queuing to get across the border because CPB is busy somewhere else? They fucking text people and they're like, yeah, they're busy with this other group. We sent a bait group down that way. Meet us here and we'll get you across. When has that not happened? Also, how many of those people, this is their first and only try? How many of those people actually made it fucking across? I'm just going to go with 0. I call bullshit. There's a reason why they didn't show them exiting that space. They're coming across. He kept showing that dude who was flashing the light because he didn't want to be seen. And focusing on that dude who's a human trafficker, who's actually just a paid guide to get people across. That guy, there's so much footage of that guy and the line in the Mexican side, and they're not showing the people actually getting into the United States and going anywhere. Why? Either it didn't happen and they never got to that point, or they got caught and it eats the narrative, just like the fentanyl that was seized. So fucking stupid. And so again, the idea that Tulsi Gabbard, of all fucking people, is crawling up George Santos's ass for being a liar when she's literally materially making no distinction between a human trafficker and a human smuggler, and saying that the cartels and the human traffickers are working together and not working together, and that fentanyl seized at the border is a sign that things are going badly. Just lazy.